The coffee was still warm when it hit my face. I stood there in the boardroom, hot liquid dripping down my cheek, staring at Martin Keller's twisted expression. The other board members sat frozen, mouths open in shock. "That's not what we agreed," I had said just moments before. "The IP is mine. You license it. You don't control it." Martin's face had darkened like a storm cloud. He walked across the polished conference table, grabbed his ceramic mug, and threw the contents directly at me. Coffee splashed across my glasses, staining my button-down shirt brown. The room fell silent, except for the gentle drip of coffee hitting the marble floor. Martin stood there breathing hard, his expensive suit perfectly clean, while I looked like I'd been attacked by a barista. I reached up slowly, wiped the coffee from my eyes, and looked directly at him. Then I smiled. Not a bitter smile or a fake one, but a genuine smile of someone who just realized they held all the power. "You just ended your own career," I said quietly. Then I walked out, leaving 20 years of corporate politeness behind me. The real story started 4 years ago. 4 years earlier, I was just Douglas Peter, a 58-year-old software architect whose wife had died of cancer 6 months before. I spent my evenings alone in our small house, surrounded by her books and the smell of her lavender candles. Work felt meaningless. Everything felt meaningless. That's when I started coding again. Not for any company, but for myself. I called it Route Logic, a simple program to help delivery drivers find better routes. Nothing fancy, just something to cut fuel costs and save time. I tested it with local businesses first. Maria's Bakery saved $30 a week on deliveries. Sam's hardware store cut delivery time in half. Word spread quietly through our small business community. The software wasn't revolutionary, it just worked. It learned from real traffic patterns, weather delays, and driver preferences. Most routing software treats drivers like robots. Mine treated them like humans. I spent 18 months perfecting it in my garage, coding late into the night while grief slowly transformed into purpose. My wife Sarah had always said I did my best work when I wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was right. Route Logic became something special because I built it for people, not profits. Martin Keller found me through a mutual friend who worked at his startup, Keller Tech Solutions. Martin was 34, Harvard MBA, full of buzzwords and venture capital connections. His company specialized in logistics optimization solutions, but needed actual software that worked. When we met for coffee, Martin wore a $1,000 watch and talked about disrupting the supply chain ecosystem. I just wanted my software to help more small businesses. "We need someone with your expertise," Martin said, leaning forward with practiced charm. "License your software to us. We'll handle the business side, marketing, sales, scaling. You'll retain full intellectual property rights." He slid a contract across the table. I read it carefully, especially the clause I insisted on. If the software was misused for surveillance or discriminatory pricing, the license would be immediately revoked. Martin signed without reading it. "This is going to be huge, Douglas," he said, shaking my hand. "We're talking about transforming how America moves goods." I believed him then. I thought we shared the same vision of helping businesses run better, but Martin saw dollar signs where I saw delivery drivers getting home to their families earlier. That difference would destroy our partnership. The first red flag came 6 months later. I walked into the office early and heard Martin on a conference call, his voice echoing from his glass-walled corner office. "The Route Logic backend can track individual driver behavior," he was saying. "Speed, brake patterns, route deviations, very valuable data for insurance companies." My stomach dropped. That wasn't what Route Logic was designed for. I had included basic logging for troubleshooting, not surveillance. Martin continued. "We're also exploring applications for law enforcement. Imagine tracking delivery patterns in specific neighborhoods, flagging unusual activity." I stood outside his office, invisible to him as he sold my software's soul to whoever was on the other end of that call. Route Logic was supposed to help drivers, not spy on them. When Martin finished the call, I knocked on his door. "We need to talk about the direction of Route Logic." "Douglas, come in, come in." His smile was bright but empty. "I was just discussing some exciting new applications for your brilliant software. Applications that violate our licensing agreement," I said quietly. His smile flickered for just a moment. Let's not get bogged down in legal details. We're building something revolutionary here. But I was already building my exit strategy. Martin started playing psychological games after our conversation. He would send emails copying the entire team, phrased like I had missed important meetings or forgotten key decisions. Following up on Douglas's request to modify the core algorithm, one email read, "I had made no such request. Per Douglas's suggestion yesterday, we'll be implementing user tracking features," read another. I had specifically argued against tracking features. Each email made me look forgetful or incompetent. But Martin underestimated me. I documented everything. Screenshots, meeting notes, recorded calls were legally permitted. I had learned long ago that in corporate environments, your memory means nothing without evidence. I also discovered something else. Hidden in my original code was a passive logging system I had built for debugging. It tracked when and how the software was being used, creating metadata trails of any modifications. The logs told a disturbing story. Martin's team was testing geo-targeted route optimization that charged different rates based on neighborhood demographics. Poor areas paid more for the same routes. It was digital redlining, wrapped in algorithm packaging. This violated everything I believed in. It also violated our licensing agreement. I walked into Martin's office on a Tuesday morning and placed my resignation letter on his desk. 2 weeks' notice, professional and brief. Martin read it, then looked up with a smirk. "Running away, Douglas? Can't handle the big leagues?" "I'm invoking the license violation clause," I said calmly. "You have 72 hours to cease all unethical applications of route logic." His smirk faltered. "You can't do that. We've built our entire infrastructure around your software." "Read the contract you signed." I placed a highlighted copy on his desk. Section 12, subsection C. Any use for surveillance or discriminatory pricing results in immediate license revocation. Martin's face went red. "You'll destroy everything we've built." "You destroyed it when you turned my software into a spy tool." I stood up. 72 hours, Martin. I walked to my desk, packed my few personal items, and left Keller Tech forever. That night, I remotely disabled RouteLogic's connection to their servers. It was completely legal. I owned the software and had given proper notice. By Thursday morning, their entire logistics operation had ground to a halt. The phone calls started Friday morning. Martin's assistant called first, then Martin himself, then 3 different board members. I let them all go to voicemail. The messages grew increasingly desperate. "Douglas, we can work this out. Let's discuss this like professionals. You're destroying the company over a misunderstanding." But there was no misunderstanding. I had copies of their discriminatory pricing tests. I had recordings of Martin's calls about surveillance applications. I had proof they violated our agreement. On Monday, I heard through my former colleague Aria that Martin was scrambling to present RouteLogic to potential buyers. The software still booted up. It looked functional on the surface, but none of the actual routing data populated. I had kept the data parser keys. Aria texted me, "Martin's demo was a disaster. The software showed blank maps to a room full of investors. He's blaming you for sabotage." I texted back, "Not sabotage. Contract enforcement." Martin didn't understand the difference between ownership and employment. He thought because he paid me a salary, he owned my creation. But I had been careful from the beginning to protect what mattered most. Arya Singh had been the only person at Keller Tech who treated me like a human being instead of a coding machine. She was a senior developer, brilliant and ethical, who often stayed late to discuss the technical challenges of scaling RouteLogic responsibly. She called me Wednesday evening, voice shaking. "Douglas, I need to tell you something. Martin's been altering your code." "What kind of alterations?" "Biometric tracking. The app now logs driver heart rates, stress indicators, even how long they take for bathroom breaks. It's all being stored and sold to insurance companies." My blood ran cold. "That's not just unethical, it's probably illegal without consent." "I know. I've been documenting everything. Screenshots, code changes, the works. I'm taking it to HR tomorrow." Arya had always been more than just a coworker. She was a moral compass in a company that had lost its way. Her willingness to speak up gave me hope that not everyone at Keller Tech had forgotten their principles. "Be careful," I warned her. "Martin doesn't respond well to challenges." "I know, But this is bigger than my job security. Drivers deserve privacy. That night I slept better knowing I wasn't fighting this battle alone. Martin's lawsuit arrived via certified mail on Friday morning. He was suing me for breach of contract, theft of intellectual property, and intentional destruction of business relationships. The papers claimed I had stolen proprietary technology and was using it to compete unfairly. I almost laughed reading the allegations. Every claim was backwards. Martin had breached our contract by misusing my software. I owned the intellectual property, and I had no interest in competing. I just wanted my creation used ethically. I called my lawyer, Janet Reeves, who had helped me with the original licensing agreement. She read through Martin's lawsuit and chuckled. "This is weak, Douglas. He's hoping you'll settle rather than fight. But you have documentation of the license violations, right?" Folders full. Screenshots, recordings, email chains, server logs. "Good. I'll file a counter motion. By the time we're done, Martin will wish he'd honored your original agreement." Janet was right. Martin's lawsuit was dismissed within 2 weeks. The judge noted that our licensing agreement clearly specified the conditions for revocation, and Martin had violated multiple clauses. Martin's lawyer called Janet afterward, fishing for a settlement. We declined. Tom Anderson found me through the small business network where I had originally tested Route Logic. He was a quiet billionaire who made his fortune in sustainable packaging, then started a supply chain consulting firm focused on helping companies reduce environmental impact. We met at a small cafe downtown, far from the glass towers and corporate politics. Tom wore jeans and a simple button-down shirt, nothing flashy or expensive looking. "I heard about your situation with Keller Tech," he said over coffee. "I've been following Route Logic since you helped Maria's Bakery. Impressive work." "Thank you, though I'm not sure what's next for the software." Tom leaned forward. "What if I told you I could offer you complete creative control, ethical oversight, and a consulting role that lets you work on projects you actually believe in?" It sounded too good to be true. "What's the catch?" "No catch. I've seen too many good technologies corrupted by bad leadership. I want to fund research into logistics solutions that actually help communities." He slid a business card across the table. "Think about it. No pressure." That night, I researched Tom's company. Everything checked out. They had a reputation for treating both employees and communities well. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful about the future. The quarterly investor call was scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. I wasn't supposed to know about it, but Aria had texted me the details. I listened to the public live stream from my home office. Martin started confidently discussing temporary technical difficulties and exciting new partnerships. But halfway through his presentation, investor Patricia Thornburg interrupted. "Mr. Keller, can you explain the 11% stock drop following the Route Logic system failure? Our firm lost significant money when your logistics platform went offline." Martin stammered. "That was due to a disgruntled former employee who violated his contractual obligations. According to our legal team," Patricia continued, "court records show your lawsuit against the software's creator was dismissed. Can you clarify why you don't have controlling access to your own company's core technology?" The call went silent for a long moment. When Martin finally answered, his voice was strained. "We're exploring multiple licensing options to ensure platform stability." More questions followed. Other investors demanded explanations. Martin's confident facade cracked as he struggled to explain how he had built a company around software he didn't own or understand. By market close, Keller Tech stock had dropped another 7%. Martin's investors were losing faith. The board hired Morrison & Associates, a forensic accounting firm, to conduct a complete audit of Keller Tech's finances and operations. The decision came after Patricia Thornburg demanded transparency about the company's technical assets and licensing agreements. Aria texted me updates as the auditors dug deeper into the company's records. "They're finding some interesting things," she wrote. "Off-books consulting payments, unauthorized access agreements, possible ethics violations." The audit lasted 3 weeks. When Morrison & Associates presented their findings to the board, the results were damning. They found evidence that Martin had sold back-end access to Route Logic to a government surveillance company without proper authorization. He had also been receiving consulting payments from insurance companies in exchange for driver data. None of these arrangements had been disclosed to investors or approved by the board. Martin had essentially been running side businesses using my software as leverage. The auditors also confirmed what I already knew, that Martin had never owned the intellectual property rights to RouteLogic, despite telling investors he controlled the company's core technology. Board member Harold Gordon called an emergency meeting for the following Monday. Martin's empire was starting to crumble, one hidden deal at a time. I spent the weekend crafting careful, factual letters to KellerTech's major shareholders. Nothing dramatic or emotional, just clear explanations of how their investments were being used for unethical purposes. I included technical summaries of the discriminatory pricing algorithms, evidence of unauthorized surveillance features, and documentation of Martin's off-books deals. Everything was public record or information I had legal right to share as the software's creator. The letters went out Monday morning via certified mail to 12 major shareholders, including 2 pension funds and a teacher's retirement system. I also sent copies to 3 business journalists who specialized in tech ethics. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone was ringing constantly. Reporters, investors, and board members all wanted to understand what was really happening at KellerTech. I kept my answers simple and factual. I created RouteLogic to help small businesses. When it was modified for surveillance and discriminatory pricing, I revoked the license as contractually specified. The story started gaining traction in business publications. Headlines like, "The software creator who pulled the plug," and "When ethics meets intellectual property," appeared across industry websites. Martin was about to discover that public opinion matters more than legal threats. The exodus began Wednesday morning. 3 middle managers, Jennifer Walsh from operations, David Kim from client relations, and Sarah Torres from compliance, submitted their resignations simultaneously. Then they published a joint statement on LinkedIn. "We can no longer work for a company that prioritizes profits over principles," the statement read. "The leadership's abusive behavior toward employees and unethical treatment of software licensing has created a toxic environment that contradicts our personal values." Jennifer's portion specifically mentioned witnessing physical intimidation tactics, including a senior executive throwing hot coffee at a colleague during a business disagreement. The post went viral within hours. Comments poured in from former employees sharing their own stories of Martin's aggressive behavior. Current employees began liking and sharing the post, despite obvious risks to their job security. By Thursday morning, local business reporters had picked up the story. A Channel 7 investigative journalist called me for comment about the coffee incident. "I prefer to let my work speak for itself," I told her. "But I appreciate people standing up for workplace dignity." Martin's reputation was unraveling faster than he could control. Tom Anderson and I finalized our partnership agreement on Friday. His consulting firm would fund the development of RouteLogic Community Edition, a free, open-source version designed specifically for nonprofits, small businesses, and community organizations. The announcement went out through business and technology channels simultaneously. Original RouteLogic creator launches ethical alternative, read the Tech Daily headline. Software pioneer chooses purpose over profit, wrote the Business Ethics Journal. Within 48 hours, over 300 organizations had signed up for beta testing. Food banks, local delivery cooperatives, volunteer transportation networks, exactly the communities I had always wanted to help. The response was overwhelming. I received emails from drivers thanking me for creating software that respected their privacy. Small business owners shared stories about how the original RouteLogic had saved their company's money and how excited they were about the Community Edition. Martin's version of RouteLogic was designed to extract value from users. My version was designed to create value for users. The market was already choosing which philosophy it preferred. Revenge isn't always about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something so much better that their greed becomes irrelevant. The email arrived Monday morning from a shell company called Meridian Solutions LLC. The subject line read, "Software licensing opportunity," and the message offered to purchase full rights to RouteLogic for an undisclosed sum. I recognized Martin's writing style immediately. He always used phrases like synergistic opportunities and strategic asset acquisition. He was trying to buy back the software under a fake company name, probably hoping I wouldn't research who was behind Meridian. I spent 30 minutes online and traced Meridian's registration to an address 2 blocks from KellerTech's headquarters. The listed contact email used the same format as KellerTech's internal system. Instead of ignoring the email, I decided to have some fun. I replied with a professional message offering to license Route Logic to Meridian under the exact same terms I had offered KellerTech, including the ethics clause that Martin had violated. His response came within an hour, much less carefully worded. "We need full ownership, not licensing. Name your price." I forwarded the entire email chain to Janet, my lawyer, who sent Martin a cease and desist letter for attempting to conduct business under false pretenses. She also reminded him that our previous licensing agreement contained a non-compete clause preventing him from developing similar software for 2 years. Martin was running out of options. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. According to my contact Harold Gordon, the vote on Martin's removal as CEO required a simple majority, 5 out of 9 votes. Harold called me Tuesday evening with an update. "We have 4 solid votes to remove Martin. The swing vote is Rebecca Peter, no relation to you, just coincidence. She's concerned about company stability if we change leadership." What does she need to see? Evidence that Martin's decisions have materially harmed the company. We have the financial losses, but she wants proof of deliberate wrongdoing. I thought about the metadata logs I had been collecting for months. What if I could show that Martin knew his changes to Route Logic violated our licensing agreement, but implemented them anyway? That would be exactly what we need. That night, I compiled a detailed technical report showing when each unethical feature had been added to my software, along with email timestamps proving Martin had been warned about license violations before each implementation. The evidence was damning. Martin hadn't just made mistakes, he had deliberately ignored warnings and violated our agreement to pursue bigger profits. Harold would present the report Thursday morning. Harold called me at 11:30 a.m., his voice tight with frustration. "The vote failed, Douglas. 5-4 against removing Martin." My heart sank. Rebecca voted with Martin? Yes. She said the technical violations weren't clear enough for her to risk destabilizing the company. But Harold wasn't finished. However, she agreed to meet with you privately. She wants to see the evidence firsthand, not filtered through board presentations. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant downtown where Rebecca could review the documents without corporate pressure. I brought my laptop with the complete metadata logs and a printed timeline of Martin's violations. Rebecca was a sharp, methodical board member who had built her own logistics company before selling it. She understood both the technical and business implications of what Martin had done. After an hour reviewing the evidence, she closed my laptop and looked directly at me. "This is worse than I thought. Martin wasn't just careless. He was systematically violating your agreement while lying to the board about his legal rights to the software. Will you call for another vote?" "I'll do more than that. I'll present this evidence myself and recommend immediate removal for cause." Justice was finally within reach. The emergency board meeting convened Monday morning. Rebecca presented my technical evidence methodically, walking through each violation and its timeline. She showed how Martin had received written warnings about license violations but continued implementing unethical features. The vote was unanimous this time, 9-0 to remove Martin as CEO, effective immediately. Martin stormed out of the boardroom, shouting about betrayal and conspiracy. Security cameras in the lobby captured him kicking over a potted plant and screaming at the receptionist before being escorted from the building. The footage leaked to social media within hours. Coffee-throwing CEO started trending on Twitter as people shared the video of Martin's meltdown alongside stories about the original coffee incident. Local news stations picked up the story for their evening broadcasts. Tech CEO's dramatic exit after ethics violations. Read the Channel 7 headline. The reporter noted that Martin had thrown coffee at an employee during a business dispute, then been removed by his own board after a pattern of unethical behavior was exposed. Martin had wanted to be famous in the tech world. He got his wish, just not the way he expected. The board offered me Martin's position as CEO during an emergency meeting Tuesday afternoon. Harold Gordon presented a generous compensation package and promised complete creative control over the company's technical direction. I declined politely. I'm not interested in running a corporation. I'm a software developer who wants to solve problems, not manage them. Instead, I recommended Arya Singh for the CTO position and helped the board draft a comprehensive technology ethics charter. The document established clear guidelines for employee treatment, user privacy, and responsible innovation. The charter included provisions that any software developed by KellerTech would prioritize user benefit over profit extraction. It also established an ethics review board with authority to veto projects that violated community standards. Arya accepted the CTO role enthusiastically. Her first official act was implementing the ethics charter and beginning the process of removing all surveillance features from the existing RouteLogic installation. We're going to rebuild this company's reputation one ethical decision at a time, she told the staff during her first all-hands meeting. It felt good knowing that my creation would finally be used the way I had always intended. Rebuilding KellerTech's culture took months. But the transformation was remarkable. Under Arya's technical leadership and the new ethics charter, the company shifted focus from surveillance and data extraction to genuine logistical problem-solving. I worked as a part-time consultant, helping train new engineers in responsible AI development and community-focused software design. We established partnerships with local nonprofits and small businesses, ensuring that technology served human needs rather than corporate greed. The RouteLogic Community Edition launched successfully in November, with over 2,000 organizations using the free software to optimize their operations. Food banks reported 20% efficiency improvements. Volunteer driver networks cut coordination time in half. Small delivery businesses saved hundreds of dollars monthly on fuel costs. More importantly, we proved that ethical software could be profitable software. KellerTech's client base grew as organizations specifically sought out technology companies with strong ethical standards. Young engineers started choosing KellerTech internships over higher-paying positions at surveillance-focused companies. They wanted to build technology that helped communities rather than exploiting them. The culture I had dreamed of was finally becoming reality. The letter arrived on a Tuesday in December, addressed simply to Douglas Peter, software developer. Inside was a handwritten note from the San Francisco Food Bank, signed by dozens of volunteers and staff members. Your RouteLogic Community Edition has transformed how we serve our community, the letter read. Our delivery volunteers now spend more time helping families and less time stuck in traffic. Last month alone, we delivered food to 847 additional households because your software optimized our routes so efficiently. The letter included photos of families receiving deliveries and testimonials from volunteer drivers who appreciated the user-friendly interface and privacy protections. A grandmother named Rosa had written, "Thank you for creating technology that treats us like people, not data points." Similar letters arrived throughout December, a rural medical transport service that could now reach remote patients more reliably. A community college that used RouteLogic to coordinate campus shuttle services. A veterans organization that optimized meal delivery to homebound elderly veterans. Each letter reinforced why I had pulled RouteLogic from KellerTech in the first place. Technology should serve human dignity, not undermine it. My software was finally fulfilling its original purpose. The journalist found me through Tom Anderson's consulting firm. Maria Santos from Tech Ethics magazine wanted to write about the growing movement toward responsible software development, and she had heard about my conflict with KellerTech. We met at the same cafe where Tom and I had first discussed our partnership. Maria was young, earnest, and genuinely interested in the ethical implications of technology rather than just the business drama. "What drove you to sacrifice a lucrative partnership for principle?" she asked. "I didn't sacrifice anything," I replied. "I protected something more valuable than money, the integrity of my work and the trust of the communities it serves." The interview covered my background, the development of route logic, and the decision to revoke Keller Tech's license. Maria was particularly interested in how individual developers could maintain ethical standards within profit-driven corporations. The article, titled "The Developer Who Said No," was published in March and shared widely across social media and professional networks. It sparked conversations about intellectual property rights, workplace ethics, and the responsibility of technologists to consider the broader impact of their creations. Several universities began using the article in their computer science ethics courses. Martin's new startup, Meridian Technologies, officially launched in April with significant venture capital backing. Despite his reputation, investors were attracted to his claims about revolutionary logistics software and exclusive partnerships. But the technology industry has a long memory. When potential clients researched Martin's background, they found the coffee incident, the board removal, and the ethics violations. Several major logistics companies publicly stated they would not work with any Martin Keller venture. Martin's initial client presentations went poorly. Without access to route logic or any comparable software, Meridian could only offer generic solutions available from dozens of other companies. The venture capital dried up quickly when investors realized they had funded Martin's name rather than any real innovation. By September, Meridian had quietly closed operations. Martin took a part-time consulting position with a small freight brokerage in Phoenix, far from the technology centers where his reputation had been destroyed. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall, just relief that his influence could no longer corrupt good technology for selfish purposes. Sometimes justice looks like failure following inevitably from poor choices. I found the bench by accident, walking along the coastal path near my house on a sunny Saturday morning. It faced west toward the ocean, positioned perfectly to catch the afternoon light filtering through the cypress trees. I started bringing my laptop there to work on route logic improvements, enjoying the sound of waves and the absence of corporate politics. The bench became my outdoor office, a place where I could think clearly about problems that actually mattered. One afternoon in late spring, a young woman approached hesitantly. She wore a university sweatshirt and carried a well-worn programming textbook. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Douglas Peter, the developer who created route logic?" I nodded, wondering how she had recognized me. "I'm studying computer science at the local university. My professor uses your case study to teach ethics in software development." She sat down beside me, clutching her textbook nervously. "Your code changed how I think about people. I mean, about treating users as humans rather than data sources." We talked for an hour about responsible programming, community-focused development, and the importance of maintaining ethical standards even under corporate pressure. Her enthusiasm reminded me of my younger self, coding in my garage because I wanted to solve real problems for real people. As she walked away, I realized that maybe the most important legacy isn't the software itself, but the inspiration it provides to the next generation of developers. I smiled, finally at peace.